Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm John Johnson.
And you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
The podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Just wanted to let you guys know that this is a previously recorded podcast for Patreon. So some of the stuff we talk about might be dated as far as, we recorded at a different time of the year. So if you notice that, that's why. And if you would like to join our Patreon, you can join at patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word. And speaking of patrons, we'd like to thank Grant, Dylan, Beth, Michael, Kevin, Kalia, Christian, Hoku, and Otaku Mike. You guys are wonderful, and we thank you for helping us produce this podcast. And with that, let's get into the episode.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are diving into one of my favorite series of all time. Finally, it's been 4 years. I've been trying to get John to read this, and finally it is the right time. And we are continuing our Pride Month books for June. And so Strangers in Paradise is the book that we are doing this time for you patrons. We love you guys. And I'm glad we got to do this because, like I said, it's one of my favorites. I've been waiting for John to read it. We've covered a couple of the creator Terry Moore's books on this podcast before. I believe one of our very early, maybe number 10-ish episode number 10 was on Motor Girl, which was by him, which we both loved. And I believe for Halloween one year we did Rachel Rising, which is another one of his. So both were good or great. I think Motor Girl we unanimously were like, this is fantastic. I think Rachel Rising was like, this is really good. I don't know if it was like your favorite thing or anything, but yeah, I think we both enjoyed it. So this is like different from those, but this is like the first book I ever read that had. So I'll preface this with, I grew up in a very religious household, and so things with gay characters weren't really not necessarily not allowed, but they weren't. I wasn't reading books with gay characters or anything in them, and this was like one of the first things I read. Where one, it's not a superhero book, and two, it's about two women, and three, it's got gay themes and characters and stuff in it. So I was like, okay, these are like three things I never thought I would really like. But when I used to work at the comic book store, John, Terry Moore did a signing for when they started releasing the pocket books of Strangers, because he lives in Houston. So he came to Austin Books and was like, signing. And one of my things I would do when I worked there was like, if I didn't know who a creator was, I would get a book of theirs, have them sign it, and then just read it and see like if I liked it. And so I got this one and I could not put the damn thing down. So I got home, read it in like one sitting in like an hour and a half, which is pretty good because it's like, I think that first volume has like 13 comics or something like that in it. Like it's a good chunk. So, yeah, it was like, I was like in love with it. I was like, this is great. Went and bought all the rest of them, read it all the way through. And at the time, the series hadn't finished because there's 90 issues in volume 3 of Strangers. And so that I think it was on issue like 60 or something when I started reading it. And so I just bought the issues as they came out after that. And it finished and it had a really good ending. So it's one of those like series that like it's solid all the way through, which is fairly rare. Either they flub the ending or there's a lull in the middle or something, but I remember liking it very much, and like it didn't ever get really like messed up or anything. So, but you had never read this, right? You knew about it from me, right? Correct?
Yeah, I knew about it from you, and I was interested in it. I just, it was one of those like, it's not when I go out of my way. I've always kind of been more of the standard, I guess, superhero guy. But that's why we've been doing this podcast for so long. Get my what used to be not comfort zones are now like, oh yeah, I just like reading comics, which is good. That's what, again, that was kind of the point of this. But yeah, I remember very vividly reading Motor Girl, and you'd be like, oh, we'll start with this one, and being blown away. The writing on that comic, I remember I just remember being blown away, really impacted. I remember crying. Like that was so it was such an impactful read and um such a cool feeling to know. Like I don't think I'd ever experienced that with a comic before. So I started to look into it a little more, and then again, this is one like, oh, we should save this for the podcast because this is a really good comic. And I remember I picked up one of the pocketbooks, and it's intimidating, just that one chunk, because it's like the size of a decent manga, but it's American comic, so it's going to be a little wordier. And then we read Rachel Rising for the one Halloween, and again, I enjoy that. I don't think quite as much as Motor Girl, but I remember liking it. So yes, I'm glad that this was picked for our patrons, and I was really excited to read it.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, like I said, I've been wanting to read this with you for a while, so I'm glad we got to dig into it. And it turns out it wasn't as many volumes as I thought we would have to read, because the first. So let me just kind of explain how Strangers in Paradise was written. It is an indie black and white comic from the 90s. Came out in 93, self-published. So the first volume or like run of Strangers in Paradise is only 3 issues long, because that's what he could create with the money he had at the time. Then there was a 3-year gap. Then he came back with volume 2 of Strangers in Paradise, which is like the second run of it that he could afford to pay for. And that was, I think, 12 issues, maybe 13. And then there's another break. And then he comes back in 99, I think, like 2 years later, and does a 90-issue run, which is volume 3. So that one, obviously, he had more sales and enough, to keep going, by that time. So it's when I say volumes, that's what I mean. Other than, obviously, we have volume 1 and 2, which we read for the issues, which is like the trade paperbacks that came out. So for this podcast, we read volumes 1 and 2. Volume 1 actually contains issues 1 through 3, which is the run number 1 of Strangers in Paradise. And then I think we read half of the official run number 2, with volume 2 of the trade paperbacks that we read. So it's a little confusing, but I believe it's issues 1 through 7 of volume 2 of Strangers is what we read, and issues number 1 through 3 of volume 1. So in case anyone's wanting to read it, it's confusing, but that's what he had to put it out, by himself. So
You can't blame him.
Yeah, it's what happens, and it's not too bad. I mean, literally, there's 3 issues, then it stops. Then there's 12 issues, then it stops. Then there's 90 issues, and you're not going to miss those ones. So it's not that confusing compared to think about Spider-Man and shit now, or Batman. It's I don't even know. They have weird renumberings and legacy numbering and shit. I'm I don't know. I don't know what fucking number we're on in any of this shit. But yeah. So first volume. We get introduced to our main characters right away. Specifically, the main character is a woman named Francine Peters. And we start off with her in high school. It says 10 years ago. And she is about to go on stage in a play. And she's getting her toga on, because I guess is I don't know. The name of the play is Strangers in Paradise, which, makes sense for the book being named that. But we see that she's oh, I can't get my toga on, it's falling down, it needs to be pinned up. And the teacher's Jesus, figure it out, Jesus, what are you, stupid? And then and then she walks away, and then Francine's okay. And then as she goes up on stage, we see Katchoo comes out from behind, and we see she's got to be a bad girl, right? Because Katchoo is the friend character. That's her nickname, because her name is Katina Chuwinski. She's I don't know, Polish or Czech or something. So she's the bad girl that hangs out with Francine, because she's smoking. She's got gloves on. She looks cool or whatever. So yeah, she's got an attitude. But we also see her check out her friend Francine, so we know, okay, from the first page or second page, she's got a crush on her friend probably. But she shoves Francine out on stage because it was her time to go out, and Francine had not fixed her toga, and then she accidentally makes the guy that she's acting with Trip on stage, and he accidentally pulls down her top, or like he pulls on the toga, and her whole toga falls down and reveals her chest and her underwear, lower bottom underwear, to the whole school and everybody. So it's like, oh shit, that's like the worst thing that could happen. And it's not a dream either. This seems like it would be a dream sequence, yeah?
Yeah, no, but I mean, yeah, that's probably one of the worst things that could happen in high school.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, so then we jump 10 years to like modern day, or this is modern day, so 93 or whatever. And it says one night last week, and we see we just get some like a repeating panel of the bedroom, and we see it's all black and everything. We can only see a night table, but we hear a couple talking, and it's Francine is one of the people, and the other person is someone named Freddie, and Freddie is trying to sleep with Francine. She's denying him, but he's very persistent, and it seems like they've been a couple for a while, and he apparently she has not been with him sexually, but like they still sleep together, I guess. And so he's very like, come on, or whatever, and she's like, no. And then we hear Katchoo yell, shut up. So we know that Francine and Katchoo live together, and Freddie is Francine's boyfriend. And I just thought this was funny. The intro we get of adult Katchoo is the alarm clock goes off, and she pulls out a gun and shoots it. What do you think of that introduction?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Again, could tell she's the bad girl, but I didn't expect her to like have a gun on her in the adult scene. Yeah, that was kind of funny. And then it wakes everybody up. So it's like, whoa, what the hell?
Yeah. So we get like a comedic back and forth because Katchoo couldn't sleep because of their back and forth of arguing about having sex or not. And so we find out that Katchoo hates Freddie and thinks he's like a scumbag. And she makes fun of him. I can't remember what she calls him, but she says like, Ready Freddie. She calls him Ready Freddie because he's always ready, but he's never gotten any or whatever. So he gets mad at her for saying that, and he takes it out on Francine when they're like getting coffee. And he says like, what's going on? Like, you don't sleep with me. We've been going out for a while. I think, what is it, like almost a year? They've been going out for a year because today is their anniversary. Although I think he kind of forgot, or he just doesn't care. And he like goes off on her being like, why won't you have sex with me? This is so annoying and blah, blah, blah. Like, and basically she says, well, it's because all the other men I've slept with, the second I sleep with them, they go away, because it's like that's all they wanted. So I was hoping, we build a relationship and then I would sleep with you. And he's like, well, that's great, but it's been a year and this is ridiculous and I can't believe it. And like, he gets all mad and then he leaves, and she's like, but it was our anniversary. Like I was gonna, like tonight was gonna be the night, but he like couldn't wait one more night or whatever. So, so yeah, that's like the big kind of setup for this issue is Freddie breaks up with Francine. And what'd you think about Freddie, John, as a character?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a piece of trash, like I came off as a jerk right away, and it definitely, like, I had a feeling that because of the way Francine was very much like, kind of like, putting it on herself, a lot of it, I was like, oh, okay, he's definitely going to be a trash boyfriend too. Like, I'm sure there's going to be something terrible that happens with him.
Yeah. The funny thing is, would you believe he's in the whole series? All these characters are in the entire series.
I was very surprised to see him later on in more as further we read into this. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. He seems like a character that you just kind of have as a, initial setup or something and then goes away. But I appreciate that they actually build his character through the whole thing. So it's kind of fun when you stay on a character like that. They use him a lot for obviously to be like the dickhead or whatever. But yeah, I don't want to spoil too much later on. So anyway, we see like Katchoo trying to console Francine after the breakup. And we get this interesting moments where like Francine's like, I'm just so confused and I don't know what to do. And Katchoo's like, trying to cheer her up, and she's like, "Oh, what do you want him to say, like this?" And she gives like this straightforward, like, you're the most beautiful woman in the world, and every night I dream of you, and I dream that you love me, and I want to be with you every morning. And it seems like Katchoo's actually like telling her what she actually feels, because Francine is not gay and Katchoo is. So it seems obviously Katchoo has feelings for Francine and has been hiding them or keeping them in. And this, initially it looks like they're about to like kiss, or, Francine's going to like reveal something about herself or awaken something inside herself she didn't know was there. But she freaks out instead and is like, "Wait, what's going on? What?" And Katchoo's like, I was just joking, like jokes. I'm sure you've been there, John. I think every guy's been there when you try to say something like, "Hey, maybe we should go out," or something, and then they're like, "That's ridiculous." You're like, "Yeah, I was just joking."
Oh yeah, no, but yes, sad to say, but again, yeah, we pretty much all have been there. Yeah, that would be crazy if we went out. Yeah, what are you talking about?
My soul hurts.
I'll cry later about this.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's pretty much what Katchoo does. She like, as Francine leaves, because she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna try to get him back," or whatever. Katchoo's like, "Oh my God, I'm so stupid," and she's like crying. So, then we see Katchoo going to the museum, like an art museum, because Katchoo is an artist. So she's looking at statues and stuff. In the background, we do see Francine has called Freddie and is like, "Hey, like, come on, we pick up. We got to talk about it. This was our anniversary, and we were supposed to." And then like the beep cuts her off, and she's like, "God damn it!" So because answering machines used to just cut you off after a certain amount of time. So then we get introduced to the third main character of this book. So we have Francine, we have Katchoo, and we see in the museum where Katchoo is, there's a young man who walks in. His name is David, and he sees Katchoo standing there, and he just kind of notices her, and he's kind of looking at her from afar. And then he sees Katchoo put something in the statue's hand, and when he goes over, it's a used tampon. He's like, "The hell?" Like, and of course, the statue is of a man like holding a woman, and he looks terrified or something while she's hanging on to him. Is this a real statue? Do you know? I've never seen it before.
No, I didn't. I tried to see if I could recognize it, but it wasn't anything I could tell offhand.
Yeah, it's not like the statue of David, but the guy is as ripped as that statue, but like he's with a woman and she's clinging on to him, and he looks like distraught or something. So maybe she's like, "Oh, this guy's a fucking idiot." And so David finds her, and he sees her staring at some modern art, and he stands behind her, and he says, "Oh, that was interesting commentary you made back there." And then she's like piss off, basically. She doesn't want to talk to him, but he stays on it. He goes up to her, follows her out of the museum. It's raining. He's still following her, but they're having like a conversation while he's following her, so it's not quite as creepy as it sounds. But he eventually says, like, why don't we go get coffee? And she kind of stops and is like, "Okay." So they go, we cut away from that. We cut to Francine, who is, desperately trying to get Freddie back because, she thought she loved him, and he might be the one or something. And so we see her going into Freddie's office, and she's wearing like a big rain jacket, which isn't weird because it is raining outside. But she's wearing like a trench coat, essentially. And then when she comes into Freddie's office, she goes up to the secretary and is like, "Oh, like, hey, Margie, I'm here to see Freddie. I'll just let myself in." And Margie's like, "Oh my God, no, he told me he's busy and not allowed to have people in." And Francine's like, "Don't worry, I want it to be a surprise." And then as she breaks into the room, or not breaks in, but as she comes into the office, she's like, Francine says, "Okay, lover boy, Merry Christmas. I got a present for you." And she drops the trench coat, and it turns out she's in nothing but lingerie underneath. And but unfortunately, she comes in the middle of Freddie cheating on her, or I guess they're broken up at this point. But at least as far as Freddie's concerned, but he is about to have sex with another woman. I don't know if it's like another secretary or something in the office, someone in the office, I assume. So, yeah. So she freaks out, of course, and he's like, deal with it, But she leaves, of course, because she's angry, and then he fires the secretary who let Francine in, which pisses her off. That comes into play later, so that's why I mention it. But yeah. So then we cut back to Katchoo and David, and they're talking, and we get a sense. I don't know. What do you think of David in this first issue?
Yeah, he seemed like the artsy guy, kind of the loner, and then like he's like, oh, a girl likes art, kind of thing. So like who's just kind of like a general pickup on that.
Yeah, he's kind of like a young man who's got a crush or something. But it seems kind of sudden, right? Because like he just saw her in the museum a couple minutes ago, and but he seems to be like, I don't know, smitten with her immediately. So that's kind of an interesting way for their relationship to start. But it is interesting also because, like we said, Katchoo is a lesbian, and she even tells him like, "Hey, you're barking up the wrong tree, man. Like I'm not interested in men, so this isn't going anywhere, or it isn't going where you think it's gonna go." And yeah, so she's kind of starts freaking out, or not freaking out, but screaming about like how men are terrible and shit. And then like the waitress comes by and is like, would you like some decaf? So I thought that was funny. But there's a lot of like cartooning and humor in his art, which I love. Like when it's supposed to be hyperbolic and kind of silly, or big emotions, it gets kind of cartoony, which is great. But yeah, so then we cut to the next day, and we see Francine, of course, is still all depressed. She's waiting for a phone call. Anytime anyone calls, she's picking up the phone, and it rings, and she immediately runs to it. She's like, "Freddie?" And he's like, "Hey, babe, like, why don't we meet in the park today? I got to talk to you about some stuff." And then we see he's calling from his car phone, and he's got another woman in the car. And he's like, she's like, "Oh, I'm hungry." And he's like, "Don't worry, babe. We got to stop by the park real quick, and then we'll go get something to eat. It won't take long." So he goes to the park to break up with her. And he's just a total dick in this park. Like, he's like, you made me wait. This is so like ridiculous, and no one would do that. Like, what is this, like a religious thing or something, But she's like, "No, like I was just trying to make sure it was real and you cared about me." But he doesn't care about that, or isn't hearing any of that. And then she's like, "Fine, I'll show you." And she's like, if all you wanted was, my physical body or whatever, then take it all. And she starts ripping off her clothes. And she literally, in the middle of this park, takes everything off and throws it at her, or throws it at him. And then we cut away from that to see Katchoo painting, because that's what she does. And she throws some paint on a canvas and then smears it around. And then we see it looks a lot like Francine's face when she's done kind of with this little section. And then someone knocks on the door, and we see David is there. He says hi, comes in, looks at her art, starts giving little comments about it. But he specifically looks at like a picture of a man. And he's like, "There's lots of pictures of men in here, naked men." And he's like, "For someone who said they don't like men, you sure do draw a lot of naked ones." And she's like, "Well, maybe I just like the figure or whatever, So it seems like they're getting along, and they're kind of maybe having a moment. It seems like obviously David has a crush on her, and she knows that. But like she doesn't hold back around him, so she'll like touch him like on the shoulder or face or whatever. And to me, I was like, that's just a young man who has a crush on a girl. If they're acting like that, even though it's totally innocent and not, she already said like, "I'm not into guys." He's going to be like, so you're saying there's a chance? Like, that's just, I don't know why, but when you're a young man, at least from my experience, and I'm sure you too, John, you got a crush on a girl. Anytime they acknowledge you at all, it's like, oh my God, they have feelings for me, maybe, possibly. Do they? I don't know. I'm torn. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if, you're just like, okay, we're going to be friends, but then, like, you have touches and things like that. It's like, well, wait a minute. I thought we were friends. I don't know. My brain, especially being a young guy. So
yeah, that's just how it goes, I guess. I don't know. But apparently, if you're a gay woman, maybe you have the same issues because, like obviously Katchoo has feelings for Francine, and anytime Francine will kind of like open up to her, they're obviously more close than like David and Katchoo are. So like it seems like it also messes with Katchoo a bit as well. So, and that goes on further in the comic, but we didn't read past a certain point, so I won't spoil anything, John. But yeah. So anyway, they're in their art studio. It looks like maybe there's something kind of happening between them, as far as David and Katchoo. And all of a sudden, there's a crash outside, and they go outside, and it's Francine's car, and she has run into the building, and she is unconscious on the steering wheel, and she's naked. And David immediately tries to help Katchoo get into the car, and David picks her up, takes Francine out of the car, and brings her inside, and then is basically like, okay, what needs to happen? And then they got to get like take her to the hospital or something because she's totally out. She like can barely say anything, and when Katchoo says like, "What happened, Francine? Who did this to you?" All Francine can say is, "Oh, Freddie, don't." And Katchoo's like, "Oh my God, Freddie, you're a fucking dead man." Because like she hated him anyway, and now she's got a reason to hate him. So yeah, I love the way that issue 2 starts. Issue 2 is it shows Katchoo like all Rambo'd up. She's got like army fatigues on and stuff. She's got a bag that says U.S. Army with assumedly full of weapons and guns. And we see her older neighbor guy is like raking leaves, and he sees her and he's like, "Hey there, little lady, you need some help with that bag?" And she's like, "Fine, if you want." And he's like, "Yeah, let me just help you out." And he like tries to lift it up. He's like, "Jesus Christ, this is heavy." And he almost can't lift it himself. And then as he like sets the bag in the car, a rocket shoots out of the bag and blows up the garage that is her garage. And then he's like freaked out. He's like, "Oh my God, there was like weapons in that." And then he's like, I guess, she thinks, I thought I was going to say like, he's like, I guess scared of her. And she's like, he says something about like, "Oh, I didn't know you had those kinds of things. Oh my gosh, like what's going on?" And then she like kind of freaks him out, and she reveals a bunch of stuff about him, like having a spying on them with like a telescope and stuff, and like being creepy and a peeping Tom and whatnot. And then the guy, it turns out that this was all the guy's dream. Like he was just dreaming about Katchoo and like him going to help her, and then like all this happening. So what do you think about this little intro?
Yeah, I thought that was really good. And like you said, this is kind of where we really see the like kind of go between that cartoony and then back to, it reminded me of some of the things we saw in Motor Girl, especially with like the aliens.
Yeah, for sure. But I just think it's so funny. Like he wakes up, he's like, "Oh my God, no," because like Katchoo was like, "I'm going to reveal to your wife that this is happening." So he wakes up and he's like, "Ah," and he sees his wife vacuuming. He's like, "Okay," like no one knows that I'm a peeping Tom and all this stuff. So, but then we cut to Katchoo's house where we see Francine is waking up from her head being hurt, and it seems like she didn't go to the hospital. They just kind of bandaged her head, but she did have like glass embedded in her forehead, they said, and whatnot. Then we get this moment where David is reading poetry to Katchoo, which I was like, I don't know, I don't think anyone wants you to read poetry to them, but it seems to work. She's like, "Wow, you're really good at reading poetry," and he's like, "Oh, thank you." And it seems like they're getting along well. But then like Francine interrupts them as she's like stumbling into the room because she's still dizzy and stuff, and Katchoo is like, "That's it. Like Francine is at least awake, but you got to stay with her because she's got concussion. I'm going to go take care of Francine or take care of Freddie." And so we cut to Freddie, who's all drunk, and he's got a woman with him, and she is drunk, and he's taking her to his apartment, and she's like, there was one thing that he like, I guess maybe the writer thinks it's funny to say. I think maybe Terry Moore thinks it's funny when a girl is horny or whatever, they're hot to trot is what all the guys say. What did you think about that? Had you ever heard that, John?
Yeah, I've heard that phrase before. It's a little old timey, I think. But,
okay, I've never heard this phrase before, so I was like, I mean, obviously I've read this before, but I mean, like, he's the only person I've ever heard use it, so I always think it's funny. But like apparently that was like what he thought he would say if it's like, oh, I'm super horny. It's like, I'm hot to trot. So it does sound like an old timey 40s saying or something. But so anyway, he like gets in the room with, actually, it's got to be his apartment or something because he knows the neighbor lady. So they get inside and then it seems like they're totally gonna have sex. It's gonna be awesome. She takes her top off. It's getting ready to go have sex with him, and then all of a sudden the door bursts open and Katchoo's standing there. And it turns out that this woman is actually a prostitute, and Freddie did not know that. He just picked her up because she's like, "Hey, I don't do like couples things, and whatever's happening here, I still expect to get paid." And then right when that happens, Katchoo blows, whistles, and we see a very large lesbian friend of Katchoo come in the room, and that's the muscle. She brought the muscle with her. So he tells the friend, the muscle, to get the woman out of there. She does, and then Katchoo pulls a gun on Freddie. And I don't know about you, but I read this before, so I knew what was going to happen. But like when I first read this, I was like, "What the fuck is Katchoo like going to kill this guy?" Like, what do you think?
Oh yeah, especially since we saw her, shoot the clock right away. I was like, oh, does she have a temper? And she hasn't learned exactly what happened yet. So it's like, is she gonna take this a little too far? And then as you're reading a little bit, she's like, take your pants off. I was like, is she gonna shoot his dick off? Like, what is happening here?
It definitely seemed like that. But she doesn't know the whole story because she just saw Francine come home, say, Freddie, don't do it or whatever. And she had just jumped to conclusions that like Freddie was the one who made her naked and tried to do something to her in the car or something, which makes sense. Like, why would she be driving around naked? That would be insane, And so Freddie's trying to explain to her, like, look, I did not do anything to her. She just took all her clothes off and then like drove away. And so, but Katchoo's not hearing any of it. So we don't see what happens. All we hear is like screams. He gets hogtied. Like he gets his clothes ripped off of him and hogtied. And then we see her pull out a knife. And then we just hear screams.
And not any knife. It was it's a like one of those electric carving knives.
Yeah, like a turkey knife or whatever. So
yeah.
Yeah, like it just cuts away. So you're like, holy shit, did she kill someone? But then we hear Katchoo come home. We see David is with Francine. Everything's good. And then David says, like, what happened? Like, did you hurt him really bad or something? And she kind of smiles. And then we cut to a whole page of Freddie hanging in the window of a Macy's, and he's dressed like a clown, except he's completely naked. So he's got big clown shoes on and like a clown wig and nose and the makeup, but he's completely naked. And there's a magnifying glass in front of his wiener because it's so small. And so that's what she did to him. So of course he's yelling like, "You're dead meat, Katchoo! Like, you hear me?" So yeah, I thought that was like a funny thing. It was good that that was like the fun issue, right? It starts off funny, it ends funny. But what'd you think about that one as like a middle issue for this?
And I thought it was really good that it just turned out that she the carving knife was just to scare him, and he was it was all to make him look terrible as the sleazy is, at least anyway. I mean, it's not like he didn't have it coming. It was pretty funny.
I always like that issue because it starts off and you think like, whoa, is this like getting this cartoony and crazy? Because she's bringing like missiles to kill him or whatever. So, but it just turns out to be a dream, and not even her dream. It's the dream of the neighbor or whatever. So that's just kind of funny. But yeah. So we cut to like the next day. It's the next issue, and I think it's the next day or sometime in the future because Francine's still kind of injured. Her head is still wrapped, and we see Katchoo wake up, and but Francine is up and about now because when Katchoo comes into the kitchen, Francine is eating all kinds of crazy stuff, like weird mixtures of like turkey leg and a whole stick of butter and, whatever she could put on the sandwich, chocolate sauce and everything. So she's acting kind of loopy. So Katchoo's kind of worried about her. So she calls David to come over to like help her with Francine. Or no, I'm sorry. David actually calls her and says like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then Francine is being a bit of a a problem, like just because there's some like she's so loopy or whatever. So, so right when that's all going on and she's on the phone and everything, the doorbell rings and we see the police have arrived because, of course, Freddy is going to press charges, and we get this caricature of a police officer who's basically like a mix between like Nick Fury and the Punisher. What'd you think of this guy?
Oh yeah, like his big chin jaw and like was that his haircut was kind of ridiculous and just like big stogie sticking out of his mouth, like, "Yeah, you're coming with me."
Yeah, I love this character. But so they arrest her, and like it's obvious like Freddy is the one who's pressing charges, and Francine is kind of like, "What's going on?" because she doesn't know what happened to Freddy. But he's very bitter at what happened. So then we cut to the police station where we see Katchoo is just waiting to get processed, and the detective, who's named Detective Walsh, is like, "So, Katina Chavinsky. All right, cool. That's an interesting name. Anyway, goes through the list. There's not really anything on her, and he's like, "Have you ever been arrested?" And she's like, just silent. And so he's like, "We're gonna find out sooner or later." And she's like, "Well, then you better fucking figure it out." So, he's got to go search for her records. But that's kind of an interesting little drop there. That wait, Katchoo has some kind of record, like a police record. What did you think of that, John?
Yeah, no, that's why I was surprised, but also like, oh, okay, so she's a little rough and tumble for sure. Like, where is this gonna like end up? It definitely had my intrigue right away.
Yeah. I always thought that was like an interesting way to like reveal. I like the way that he reveals little plot threads or like interesting character things. He introduces the characters, lets you make assumptions about them. You're always going to assume like these characters are just nice and cool and everything because they're the main characters and they seem nice, like good people. But then, oh, she's got a police record. That's interesting, So David comes over. We cut back to the house, and David comes over to see Francine waiting on the stoop. And he's like, "Oh, what's going on?" And Francine says, "Oh, she was arrested." So then we cut back to the police station where Katchoo is in a holding cell, and she basically gets sexually assaulted by this officer. Like he comes in and he's like, "Hey, it looks like we're going to be spending time together." And he's like this big fat guy, and then he like pulls down her shirt and he grabs her by the hair, and it looks like it's going to be a problem. And then we see David arrive at the police station to, I guess, see if he could talk to Katchoo, and they hear screaming, like him as he's talking to Detective Walsh. They hear screaming, and they go down, and you think, oh, it's going to be Katchoo, but it's not. It's actually the police officer because she has him by this specific move that she does, where she like grabs you by your nostril holes, and, like pulls your head back, and she's like on your back. And so I guess she like got the guard on his back, or the officer on his back, and she's like pulling his nose up, and then she like lets him go, and he like smashes his teeth into the ground. And then they're like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" When David and Walsh arrive, and she's like, "Nothing now," like he's taken care of. And then of course the cop that she did that to is pissed off. He's like, "I want to press charges," and Walsh is like, "Actually, I have heard tell of what you're doing here, but now I have proof of it. So she's actually going to be pressing charges, and you're going to get in trouble." So that's like the interesting way. I think that this scene is in here because they want to show that Walsh is a good guy. Like, even though he's a cop and he's arresting her, and there's things going on that he's got to like figure out. He's not sure about her. Like, he's not a bad person like this other cop was. So, but what do you think of this whole scene?
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed her again being able to be a badass, kind of hold her own up. The weird takedown through the nostrils is fun, and then seeing Walsh's kind of like the sane cop or whatever. Like he's a good detective deep down.
Yeah, so David talks to Katchoo and kind of like comforts her, and we do see like, she actually like kind of opens up to him a bit and like cries in front of him and stuff. So it seems like their relationship's growing. Then we cut to that night, and we see Francine is breaking into Freddy's office because she's trying to get dirt on him so that she can tell him to drop the charges against Katchoo. Because I don't think anyone knows, none of these people know yet, but we find out later that Katchoo has a very long rap sheet with the FBI and stuff. So, but the person that's helping her break into Freddie's office is the secretary that he fired, Melanie, I think, or Margie, that's what it is. So she shows she shows that Francine is Freddie is embezzling money, and so now Francine has that information, and then it turns out Freddie actually comes in because he's doing something. He comes in late to the office and catches Francine in his office, and she's like, "Oh, I'm here because I want to reconcile and I want to sleep with you right now." And she tries to distract him while Margie gets out of the room. So she lifts up her shirt and he stares at her boobs, and she's trying to seduce him, and he gets all flustered and everything. And then right when, he thinks more is going to happen, she's like, "Actually, I think you need to drop the charges on Katchoo because I know about your dealings and your embezzling from this company and stuff." So she basically gets what she wants, which is good, and Katchoo gets out. So we cut to Katchoo getting let out of jail and being at home with Francine. And they're having a friend dinner, I guess, to cheers to everything. So we get a nice friendly, this is the friend group. We get David, Francine, and Katchoo, and they're all together. And that's how volume 1 of Strangers in Paradise ends. So what'd you think of that volume, John?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was nice, nice little, even if we had just read that, it was cute. You leaves you some mystery about what has Katchoo been up to? They've been friends for quite some time, obviously, at least 10 years, maybe longer. It's, she's her best friend or whatever, doing something that Francine doesn't know about. And then David kind of in the mix of being the friend. He hopes that there's something more, but he's a good, he seems like a good guy. So yeah, it was fun. It was that right there could have been enough, but I'm glad that we got to go get into the next one and kind of uncover a little bit more about Katchoo.
Yeah. So volume 2 starts with an airplane. We see Katchoo is getting back from a trip. She's stuck on an airplane next to a guy who's scared of flying and annoying her, so she makes his anxiety worse. She's like, "Well, what's the worst that could happen? The wheels fall off and we die in the landing." And he's like, "Ha, wait, what?" He's freaking out about it. So, I thought that was kind of funny. She's messing with him. But we see David and Francine are going to pick her up at the airport, and it turns out that they don't know what Katchoo was doing. She just up and left kind of quickly and didn't tell anybody what was happening. So there's kind of a weird back and forth so was it good wherever the hell you were? What's going on? It's been 2 months. And but Katchoo's being kind of private about it. She's being she just says, "I was in Canada. Let's leave it at that. I've had a hard time. I went to see a friend. Let's not make a big deal about it." So as they leave the airport and go to home, we see someone is tailing her. This man named Digman is calling and saying to someone named Miss Parker that they just arrived at the airport and they just picked her up. So, and then we see the person he's talking to, Miss Parker, and she's like, "Well, where was she at?" And he's like, "Canada." And she's like, "Interesting. All right. Well, keep me updated." And so, yeah, just kind of an interesting mystery, immediately in issue 1 of volume 2. So then we get this flashback page where we see a young Katchoo in a car with this woman Darcy, and Darcy saying "Are you nervous?" And Katchoo's like, "Yes," and basically there's something weird going on. They're wearing clothes that I don't know, some might say are tight or whatever. It looks like they're maybe high-class escorts or something, or at least Katchoo is. She's wearing fishnets and whatnot, and she looks kind of not wanting to do any of this stuff. That whatever they're talking about, they don't go into specifics, but she's crying and stuff. It's very obvious that she doesn't want this to happen. And then she talks about a woman named Emma, and then we cut back to modern day, or present day, where Katchoo was just thinking about that memory, and they're at a diner, and it's Katchoo and David and Francine, I guess, since they picked her up at the airport, they went to a diner and Katchoo's just like lost in her thoughts. But she does eventually kind of get cheered up by her friends. And, they have a good time, even though it's pretty sad. But Katchoo does fall back into like, look, let's not talk about anything. I just want to go home and sleep or whatever. So when they get home, definitely Katchoo has some issues because when we see her asleep and she wakes up the next morning, she's still like, she just looks very tired and sad. And then she had said like some song lyrics when they were hanging out at the diner, and David and Francine were like, oh, I don't know what those lyrics are. And then we find out that her friend Emma was a musician, and we see there's a piano in Katchoo's house, and she sits down and there's like the chart, the sheet music for this song by Emma, and those are the lyrics that she was singing at the or quoting at the diner. So obviously they were really, really good friends. Whatever's going on with Emma and her is really affecting Katchoo. So then we get this nice little dream sequence that's like Katchoo, and it's the cool thing is like, so this dream sequence is in color. The rest of the comic book, pretty much all of it, is in black and white. So this is like a really stark contrast. All of a sudden you get colored pages. It's like a Disney thing where there's like two chipmunks talking to a woman who's walking through the woods, and then all of a sudden like this alarm clock starts attacking her, and then the squirrels start attacking her and saying you're dead, you're a dead girl, and Katchoo's like holding on to a branch of a tree for life, and as she's falling down off the tree, she wakes up, and it turns out that was just a bad dream, a very messed up, sinister dream. What did you think about that dream, John?
I love this. I thought that was such a fun, like, this really nice sombering thing of her reminiscing about Emma and like, the song that she wrote, and then whatever their relationship might have been, and then to go into then there was the kind of like a nice poem there in the middle too, and then just out of nowhere having these bright colored pages. I knew it was obviously a dream or something because it was very cartoony, but I really liked how these were in colors. Like she's dreaming, even like her falling like awake, like it goes from color, and even on the page like starts to fade back to black and white. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. It's kind of like a fun break in the black and whiteness of it. But so she wakes up from that nightmare and she's like, God damn it, throws her alarm clock in the toilet, which I thought was funny. She comes out to see Francine eating a whole bucket of ice cream. And that's like one of the ongoing kind of things between Francine and Katchoo is Francine does eat a lot of junk food, so she's a little bit bigger than Katchoo. But there's a thing, and this is the 90s, right? So I guess being a little heavier and more curvy was not in fashion for ladies' figures, I guess. Because I mean, to me, Francine looks fine. Maybe nowadays it's fine, but I guess in the 90s it was a problem because Francine has like a bad image of herself. But she does, they show her eating her feelings a bit in this comic. What did you think of that?
I think that was very a 90s trope too. Like, well, not even a trope. Like, obviously there was a lot of things in pop culture magazines and ads and everything whatsoever. Yeah. Like, being a little overweight or being, not being able to fit into that last size jean or whatever was a bad thing. There was even that heroin chic for a while there. So yeah, like this overallness of fashion and like guiding like the propaganda of like how you should feel about your body. That's obviously was part of the time, and that's why this is in here. And I like it as far as like, it's a good additional piece of like drama that Francine is going through. So yeah, well, I like that. So she feels bad about her body sometimes, but Katchoo's always like, no, you look fine, there's nothing wrong. And then also it's interesting, like Freddie seems fine with it too, and like the men that she has been with are like, no, we're fully cool with it. So it's almost like it's a cultural thing that Francine feels bad about, but
it's all just more of that. Like the actual men that she dates and even like the women that she knows think she's fine, unless they're like competing for a man against her or something, then they might be like, oh, you're too fat or something. But that doesn't come up in this stuff, or in these issues. But yeah, so we cut away from Francine and Katchoo, and it seems like Katchoo and her have a little bit of an argument that night, or that early morning, and then we cut away to Darcy Parker, who is Miss Parker. That is the person that we saw in the car in that flashback with Katchoo, and she is in a palatial Hollywood estate, it looks like, something like that, like a big mansion with a pool. She's got a diving board. Looks very well. She's got servants that stand at her guard with weapons and stuff. And so she gets a phone call. Oh, no, she calls someone, and we see the person she's calling is that guy that was following Katchoo from the airport. And she wakes him up because he was sleeping in his van as he was supposed to be watching her. And Miss Parker's like, basically, what's going on? Why haven't I got any updates? If you fail me, like, there will be consequences, and you better keep an eye on her, because if not, like, I'm going to do something real bad to you. So we find out, okay, this Parker lady's got a lot of chutzpah. She seems like a very dangerous person, almost like she's like a mob connected person. But then we cut away from that. He's freaked out, of course, but we see Katchoo get a phone call, and it's David. So she goes to the art gallery. He's like, "Oh, I got a surprise for you now that you're back. Like you got to come to the art gallery." So she does. Of course, that guy from Miss Parker is following her, and when she comes into the gallery, he's like, "Okay, here's the surprise. Check it out." And she walks in, and it's all her artwork on the walls, and she's very angry at David because he did not ask if she wanted to have an art show. But he thinks it's like, he's doing great. This was a great gesture. And she's like, "No, you're a fucking idiot, and I do not want this." And she starts crying and then runs out. And he runs after her, but he catches up to her, and she's just like, I don't want this. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't want people seeing my work. It's very personal. And then she, like, there's this big conversation about, like, her, like, she opens up to him in this monologue or this dialogue between them. And she basically says, like, I had to live on the streets of LA for a while, and then I was homeless and an alcoholic, and I had to do anything for money, and I couldn't go home because I was raped when I was 15, and, my stepdad was the rapist, so I didn't want to go home. And so we learn about all that, and she says she was a prostitute for a while. So that kind of confirms what we saw in that car in that flashback. And then she reveals, like, the big thing, which is she was in Canada visiting her friend Emma, and her friend Emma is dying of AIDS, which, at this point in time, this is 1995, I believe. So, it's 1996. So AIDS is still on the, kind of the world's consciousness, as far as, like, something very bad to get. It's basically a death sentence. So, yeah, that's why she had to go visit her friend, because she was dying, and that's why she left as well. Then we cut to another day, maybe, or later that night. We see it's pouring rain outside. Katchoo is sitting in her bed, and she's seeing flashes of her friend Emma when she was healthy and young, and she's kind of talking to her in her room. But it's not doing good. It's not doing her any good. So she decides to put her clothes on and get ready to go out at least into the living room and stuff. And then David shows up, and they kind of talk it out a bit, and it seems like they're good now. And he's like, "Oh, hey, I brought you breakfast and food and stuff." So she's very happy about that. But there's this moment where he says something to her. Oh, he says, like, "Oh, like, I wanted to tell you something." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm falling in love with you." Like, he just straight out says it. And she's like, What? And then she, like, slaps him across the face. And, like, it actually hurts him. But we see, like, she realizes, like, oh, shit, I probably shouldn't have hit him. But, like, he's got shit timing. She's got a lot of stuff on her mind. And she just opened up to him, and he actually knows what's on her mind, and he still did that. So, but, sometimes when you're stupid and in love or whatever, or I got a big crush. You say the wrong thing at the wrong time. So, but they eventually like they work it out for the most part. And then they're kind of in the room together, staring at each other. And Katchoo's like, "You're serious, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Come here." And she like kisses him on the lips. And then all of a sudden you hear like, and then we see Francine caught them kissing or whatever, which is weird for Francine because she knows that Katchoo is gay. So it's like, all right, that's interesting. But we find out her mother's coming to visit. That's why Francine's coming in to tell Katchoo, like, hey, mom's coming. It's going to be fun. Not. We'll do a 90s joke right there. Not.
Not.
Yeah. Yeah. So then the phone rings and it's Katchoo getting another call from Emma, actually the hospital, because Emma is on, or hospice, I guess, because Emma's on death's door now. So Katchoo's like, I have to leave. So she rushes out of there. She's all distraught. And we see the guy that's been following her sees Katchoo like rush out of there, and he calls Miss Parker and he's like, she's doing it. She's making a break for it. I think she's trying to get out of the country or something. And he's like, don't worry, I'm on her like glue. And then he like totally misses her take the airport's turn off. And I don't even know if he sees her at all, but because he just drives by and doesn't stop or anything. So then we cut to the hospice and we see Emma. She looks pretty bad. Of course she's dying, and she's in not the hospital bed, but the hospice bed. And Katchoo and her have a nice moment where she's telling her about like her life and stuff, and remembering things about how they used to have a house, like when they went to Hawaii when they were younger, and like stayed at this little house, and it's going real nice. And then there's the moment where she's like talking to Emma in her ear, and then Emma doesn't say anything, and then she looks down at her and Emma's dead. So very emotional moment. What'd you think of that moment? Was there any like emotional thing for you there?
Yeah, even though like we just kind of got a little bit of backstory on this, I still felt it. It's still sad. You could tell her writing, like her words are really the lettering is really small and kind of like off kilter. So you can obviously tell like she's having, exactly, she's having a hard time. And then I really, again, the imagery on the page here too, with them both kind of like just kind of being close to her, and then her talking in her ear, and then like seeing like the page kind of like almost like the scattering. It's supposed to be the snow outside because she was just saying, hey, I'd love to see it snow again or whatever. The little kind of like the way the page is like dotted like that was really like a good way of like symbolizing like two like kind of fading away like that. So I really it made it emotional. Yeah, I mean, like I didn't cry in this one, as far as like I didn't have this deep connection like as in Motor Girl, but yeah, no, it was very well done.
Yeah. So we get that moment where she's like all torn up. The other important thing of information that's dropped here is that the name that Emma calls her is Baby June. I guess that might have been her escort name or something. For Katchoo, that's Katchoo's escort name. So, and that's interesting because it comes up later on, and we'll talk about it when it comes up. But then we cut away from that, and we see a woman who's kind of buff. She's got long blonde hair. She looks kind of like Katchoo, but not like, she's a bigger version, like a taller, buffer version of Katchoo. And she's watching the guy who was supposed to watch, I think his name's Digman, the guy who's on Katchoo like glue. He's at a diner because he was not doing his job because he totally missed her. So he's sitting at the diner and she's watching him, and then he leaves, and then this woman attacks him. And interestingly, she does the same attack move that Katchoo did on that police officer before, like grabbing him by the nose, smashing his face. And that's interesting. It's a kind of a specific move, so you wouldn't see many people do that. But yeah. So then we cut back to Katchoo getting home from that horrible time with Emma, and or sad moment with Emma, and Francine is there eating French toast, and they have a little moment where like Francine actually kisses her on the mouth with like pancake face or French toast face. So there's like syrup everywhere. But it's like little things like that. It's like, is Francine aware that Katchoo has a crush? I'm not sure. It seems like she would be, but how could you not know? But but apparently she's willing to like do that kind of stuff. So can't she tell she's driving Katchoo crazy? But yeah, anyway, they have a nice little conversation, but all that's cut off by Francine's mom coming, or her parents coming. So we get to meet Francine's mom and dad. Her dad is drunk. Why'd you say, oh, John, does this to remind you of someone?
No, not at all. It's not, but it's not her dad. It's her uncle.
Oh, I'm sorry, uncle. You're right. Yeah. But yeah, it's the mom and the uncle. Uncle's drunk the whole time. The mom is, annoying and nosy and has opinions about things that she should just shut her mouth about. But, mom, that's what she is. So we get that little, there's nothing really important that really happens here other than you just get to see how Francine's family is pretty annoying for them. But then we cut to the airport and we see Darcy Parker is arriving in town and she is going to a hotel, and who they have in the hotel is Digman, the man that was just attacked by the woman in the alley outside of the coffee shop. Basically, she's just threatening, like, you had one job and you failed. You're a dead man. And he keeps calling her Parker, and she's like, it's Miss Darcy Parker. But she's very imposing in this. I thought he did a good job of, like, making her character very, like, scary. She feels like a mob boss or something here. What'd you think?
Yeah, very much so. Like, she comes off as, like, very powerful to everyone she's talking to, whether it's like her people that we're talking with, even her, like, her cab driver, or her not cab, their limo driver there or whatever. Like, she very much seems like, yeah, very mobby.
Yeah, like and she's got like a power suit and stuff, of course, which probably helps. But yeah, so we cut away from that scene where obviously he's gonna either be dead or something the next time we cut back to them, and we cut to a dream that Katchoo was having. And we see Emma in the waves of an ocean because they're on a beach, or Katchoo's on a beach, and she sees Emma in the waves. And it's a lightning storm, and it's looking really bad, like, maybe Emma's going to drown or something. And then before anything really happens, Katchoo wakes up, then the alarm clock goes off, and we see Emma wake up next to her, and she's like, what, Emma? And then she wakes up again. So there's like a double dream. So we cut to David getting a call from Katchoo. And basically she's just talking about her dream, that she just had, because now that he knows about Emma, she can kind of talk to someone about it. Then we cut back to Darcy, who is having breakfast. We don't know what happened with the guy. It just seems like she's having a regular breakfast in her room. Nothing to see here. We don't know what happened to that guy. But we do see there's a woman that's like her servant or whatever, who's named Samantha. And, they just slowly, he slips her in slowly through this book, which is good. Like, you recognize her at least by the end of this storyline. So, but yeah, Samantha is someone we will come back to. But yeah, so we cut away from that. We're just supposed to see like, oh, maybe that guy died. We don't know, but it seems like Darcy Parker is pretty chill now, and like, calmed. So she even says to give Tammy a raise, who was the woman who attacked him and brought him in. So then we cut to Francine, who's going shopping for her regular shopping stuff. And who does she run into but Freddie? He is in the shopping mall, or he's in the shopping mart, and he's got a new girl on his arm. Her name is Casey, and they're married. They're about to get married. And I guess through this conversation, Freddie somehow invites her to the wedding. He's like, why don't you come? We're getting married in Hawaii. Why don't you come? And this is one of my favorite lines in this comic, is he says, like, we're so excited. Or no, she says, we're so excited. We're getting married in Hawaii, naked under a waterfall. Isn't that the most romantic thing you ever heard? And then Freddie's like, I thought of the naked part. That made me laugh very hard the first time I read this. But yeah, so they're like, yeah, why don't you come? You should come. And then the best thing, like his new his fiance is a aerobics instructor, and the whole time they're talking, she's like giving little winks to Francine, and they're like whispering, like, "Don't worry about those extra pounds. We can get them off anytime you want. Just come to my shop or whatever, and I'll give you free classes and stuff." Like she's like, "I'll help you lose that extra weight," and it's just basically confirming to Francine that, like, yes, she is fat. Yes, all like men want this pretty aerobics instructor, and that's it. So. And Francine looks particularly terrible as well because it was raining outside and she's covered in like wet clothes and her hair's all wet, so she doesn't look very attractive at the moment. And she's like, I hope they both drown under that waterfall.
And I'm pretty sure that when she was worried about him leaving in the first one, she said that she was worried she's gonna leave like all guys for some like blonde haired tan like
aerobics instructor specifically.
Yeah. So that was a fun like comeback around.
Yeah, I like that it kind of pays off, even though this has been 3 years since that first run and now this. So it's kind of fun. But then we see Katchoo at home and she's painting, and Francine comes in and is like, "Hey, look at what I got." And when she turns around, she sees Francine in a very, very tight dress, and she's like, "Wait, why are you dressed like that?" And Francine's like, "Because I'm going to Hawaii for Freddie's wedding, and I'm gonna like win him back, basically." Like she's going there dressed like this to like try to make him see what he's missing, I guess. And Katchoo's not very happy to see that. But yeah, so then we cut to the hospital where we see Detective Walsh, who was the cop from the last arc. And he's going into a room where there's a man who's been brought to the hospital, and he has very specific like wounds that involve his nose and being pulled up and whatnot. So it seems like maybe this was a little bit more extreme than what Katchoo did to that police officer that sexually assaulted her. But this detective's like, wait a second, I have seen this before. Kind of the same MO and whatnot. So he's like, I think we need to put an APB out for a one Katchoo, or no, Katina Kachuvinsky. So I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying her name, but it's not the hardest name in the world. But because I want to say Katchoo, and then I'm like, no, I'm going to say her full name. But anyway, so yeah, and then he says, yeah, why don't you get one for like assault and all that stuff, but then why don't you also make a warrant for murder just in case he dies, because this guy looks pretty rough. So then we cut back to Darcy Parker, who's sitting in her hotel room, and Samantha comes in, who's the servant, and says, I have a report for you about Katchoo, and basically find out some information about what is this about? It was like the money or something. Is that what this was?
Yeah, this is where we found out that basically.
Oh no, this is the flashback. This is a flashback of what happened. So that's why I was confused for a second. This is a flashback of the night that like Katchoo went missing from Miss Parker's organization, and Samantha comes in to report and says, "Hey, we lost her in Hawaii because she bribed a porter to let her, to hide her in a trash bin. But basically, she got away with a bunch of monies that was stolen from Mr. Chalmers, and it was money that was supposed to be given to you, and it's a shit ton of money. So now we know why Darcy Parker is after Katchoo for money that she stole, apparently. Then there's a little section here that's kind of like, I guess it's a dream, right? It's like it's kind of like Peanuts version of them or something. Yeah, it's Francine having a dream about them as little kids. And basically in it, the two little versions, the chibi versions of Francine and Katchoo are talking about David, and then little Francine realizes that she likes David a lot. And then when Francine wakes up, she's like, I like David. I like him a lot. I love David. And she's like, wait a second, do I love David? Like, she comes out of her dream basically saying that. And then she kind of realizes maybe I do love David. So she's got kind of a crush on David as well, it seems. So that's that's another thing growing in the relationship between all these three people. And then, so we cut to David and Katchoo hanging out, and they're at the mall and whatnot. And as they're at the mall hanging out, I can't remember what they're talking about, but they were talking about like, her in Hawaii and how much she loved being there. And there was like a little house that she stayed at with Emma. And then we cut back to Francine, who's about to go find them. And the police show up and they have an arrest warrant for Katchoo. So they tell Francine basically why they're there. They're like, she beat this guy up. She was a prostitute. She was wanted for drugs and embezzlement. And Francine's like, what? Like, I don't know. What are you talking about? This isn't the same person. Like, I've known Katchoo for years and none of that ever happened. So it seems like, maybe this is like the secret life that Francine never got to know about. But then we cut to a boardroom with Darcy Parker, and she gets told by Samantha that Katchoo was arrested, or at least there's a warrant out for her. So, and Darcy doesn't like that because whatever she knows, she doesn't want Katchoo to tell the police. So, she basically calls Tammy and says, "Hey, Tammy," or no, Bambi. There's two twin muscle women that do their dirty work, and they're named Tammy and Bambi. So she calls Bambi and says, "Hey, why don't you pick her up and bring her in alive? We need her. We need to like talk to her about, because she now we know that she has money or the whereabouts of some money that Miss Darcy Parker is looking for." So then we come back to the mall, and as they're like as David and Katchoo are looking through clothes and stuff, all of a sudden Katchoo looks up and sees either Bambi or Tammy, one of the two. And she like starts freaking out, and she grabs a dress and says, "Oh, I got to try this on. I'm going to go in here and try this on." And so David's like, "Okay." And then she starts freaking out, and Bambi or Tammy walks in. I guess it's Bambi, right? Because they told Bambi to go get her. So Bambi walks in, and
Bambi, I think.
Yeah. And so Bambi walks in and, checks the stall. And by the time she kicks open the door, Katchoo was vanished. Somehow she got out of here. I don't know if there's a window or whatnot, but there had to be some way for her to get out of there, because she did. So, there's one page in this that I don't quite understand. So there's a page of like later that night, and I think it's the king or the detective and his wife making love. And it's like a little funny moment between them as they're making love. And then the phone rings and the detective picks up, but it looks like when he picks up, they've been sleeping or something. Like they're not, I thought maybe they had been sleeping and the ringing was like later or something, but did you get confused by this at all?
No, I know. I felt like this was basically like, apparently the phone's like ringing off the hook while they're trying to do it, and eventually he's like, okay, and he leans over, he's like, what's going on?
Right. So okay, so he gets a call about the guy in the hospital, right? He's like, something's changed about him. I'm not sure what it was though. I can't remember. He just says, "I'll be right there in 20 minutes." So he has to go to the hospital, and then so David comes home and is like, "What's going on? Like, Katchoo just disappeared. I don't know what happened." And Francine says, "Oh, the cops were here looking for her." And then David's like, "I don't know. She was like trying on a dress and then she just disappeared." And Francine's like, "Let me show you something." And then like goes to Katchoo's wardrobe and opens it and says like, "Do you see any dresses here?" There are no dresses. Katchoo does not wear dresses. So what the fuck do you think that was about? So she's basically like, you're like totally, like you say you love her and everything, but you like don't know anything about her basically. And I'm her best friend and she doesn't tell me squat. She's kind of like jealous that David and Katchoo have a relationship more than her. So yeah. They also have like a little conversation about like where David's like, I'm sorry that we have a thing, but like, there's more than friendship here. And Francine's like, no, like she's gay. She's not interested in men, you idiots. And And then David's like, well, she's in love. And he says, with you, duh. And Francine's like, wait, what? So like, this is news to her, which I'm like, how could she be that oblivious? It's so obvious.
Well, that's her best friend. So she doesn't, she's like, yeah, that's my best friend. Like, ha ha ha. Yeah.
Yeah, but they had like a moment where she thought she was going to like make out with her or whatever.
Like you do with your best friend sometimes.
Well, I mean, when me and you make out, it's totally different, John.
That's true. Yeah. It's a completely different, specific way. So.
Yeah. It's like Spartans, we just do it to recharge our manliness. So anyway.
Yeah. We wear like last week's episode, we wear assless chaps to show off our manly asses, and
and make out. Yeah. Anyway, so then we cut to Darcy Parker's hotel room where she's very angry. She's throwing things and she's like, "What the fuck?" Like, apparently, Katchoo is not captured. She's on the lam. She has all my money. She has $850,000 of my money, and this is a problem. And Digman also survived, and this is also a problem. And we get this moment where like Darcy gets really close to Samantha, and it looks like Samantha can't do anything. This moment has been in movies but it's usually a man doing it. So it's like it's kind of shocking the way that Darcy just like grabs Samantha's head and like shoves it in this glass mirror and then like gets super angry and says like, I don't care what you have to do. Bring them to me, like, like I want them all. So
yeah, it's very intense.
Yeah. Then we get this very interesting, like section of the comic where it's not a comic. It's actually like a book that has pictures every now and then. What do you think of this section? Like, this is like the breakdown where we understand like, the cop talks to Digman and Digman tells him about Parker and all this stuff. So, like basically Detective Walsh gets in on it. And then right as he's about to be like, okay, give me everything we need to know on Parker, Tammy is dressed like a nurse and she walks past him and then goes to treat him and, basically kills him. He has a heart attack. And right when Walsh figures it out that was not a nurse, it's too late. So, so that's what happens. But like, what do you think of this section that's like a book rather than a comic?
I thought it was cool because it kind of felt like a police procedural, like it turned into on this kind of like, so it's like the interview.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of fun. It like is a neat way to like break it up. And, instead of like drawing out all those panels of like them talking back and forth, basically to get some of this exposition, he kind of made it like a police procedural.
I liked it too. It is, I mean, for someone, I know some people are like, oh, if it doesn't have pictures, I don't know what to do. So I don't mind reading, but some people did not like this stuff when I've talked to them before. But I will say there's the other parts where he writes like song lyrics out on a page and stuff. That's the stuff I kind of skip. I'm like, I get it. A lot of it's just kind of like extra, like you just need to know it's a song. You don't really need to know the lyrics and whatnot, but that's just me. I mean, it's kind of like when people read Watchmen and they just like skip all the like extra stuff. So we cut back to Francine and Katchoo's house where David and Francine are talking, and Francine's kind of a mess because David has just told her like basically all the stuff that Katchoo told him about her life and filled her in on all of it. And in the meantime, Katchoo is like trying to get herself together. She's like debating whether she should drink. She has a bottle of alcohol in front of her. And then she has like a flash of like her in AA and then like throws the alcohol out. So that's good. She doesn't end up drinking again. But then she calls Francine's house and we find out like as her and Francine talk back and forth that like, David spilled all of Katchoo's secrets to her, but it's okay kind of. But one thing that Francine drops is she says like, and I know, something about baby June, like that's what you went by. And Katchoo's like, wait, what? I never told David that I went by baby June. What the fuck? And then she puts two and two together and says, he must be with them. Like he must be with the Parkers. And so, she gets very worried and is like, where's David now? And Francine's like, he's in the room with me. And she's like, get out of there now, Francine. You have to run. So what do you think at this moment, this big reveal?
I thought it was a really cool twist. I didn't see that coming at all, honestly.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, I mean, I knew it was coming this time, obviously, but the first time I read it, I was like, oh, this is great. Like the kind of really good suspense, kind of like dun dun dun, like twists and whatnot, which is good. So, but before they can get out of this room, they see someone pull up, and then we cut to the people in the house already, and we can hear Katchoo we can see Katchoo hearing what's going on, and then the phone gets picked up by Samantha, who is at the house with David and Francine and Tammy, and they have them at gunpoint, and they're basically like, like, if you don't come, we're gonna kill her. Like, if you don't show up, we're gonna kill her. You better come to Darcy's apartment or her hotel room. So, and this is like what I was talking about with the panel layouts. In this specific page where she's talking to Samantha, and there's like a back and forth, you just see like a long panel of Katchoo and then a long panel of Samantha holding the gun to Francine. And then there's like a cool like design elements of the dialogue going down the page. So stuff like that. I just thought he does a really good job of making the pages interesting without making them be like image 90s pages, like these are just people talking and stuff for the most part, but he does a good job of keeping it interesting. So, but did you notice any of that? Like, did you appreciate any of the design elements?
Oh, very much so. I noticed that all the back of the page was kind of like a black backsplash at this point. So it's kind of like drawing it to make it intense, it to feeling, to me at least. And then, like the way that it dialogue boxes were put, or the one side of the page was the one character, and then there was like parts of it. It was neat. It was very well set up.
So we cut to from that moment where Samantha's, Katchoo hears like Samantha hitting Francine and stuff. So she's freaking out, and then the phone just hangs up. So Katchoo's like, oh shit, I got to go do something. Then we cut to the police station where Detective Walsh is looking through all these paperwork with the Parker girls and everything. And he runs across a name he's seen before, which is Katina Chuvinsky. And he's like, oh my God, she's one of them. So that's where he had said like, do I know you from somewhere when they first met, when he first arrested her in volume 1? And she was like, no. And he's like, I feel like I know you from somewhere. And that's where he knew her from, at least somewhat, is the files of this case where there was like a senator named Chalmers that was in some kind of prostitution rink business, as far as he got caught in that. So, and he actually got killed. So, so that's like the case he was working a while ago, and he remembered that. So, then we cut back to Darcy's room, and we see Francine is tied up by Bambi, I believe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. One of the two, Bambi or Tammy. And then Darcy's there, and she's just beating the fuck out of Francine. She's like slapping her. She's drawing blood. She's like punching her in the face and stuff. So when Katchoo comes in, she sees Francine, and it kind of like checks her because she's all beat up and everything. And then this was very well done, like drawn and played out as a scene. But basically Darcy's like, where's my money? And Katchoo says, I don't know. I didn't take it. And Darcy says, okay, well, who did? And Katchoo does this like side eye thing where she just quickly looks over at Samantha. And then Darcy's like, and then looks at Samantha and is like, I see. And then basically there's this whole conversation, but it turns out that, oh wait. So there's some big reveals here. I don't want to skip over too much stuff. So, once Katchoo says, like, kind of glances over at Samantha, it kind of hints like, oh, is she trying to blame her for this? Like, what's going on? And maybe as a reader, we don't know. Maybe it was Samantha for real. So we're unsure about what happened, what's going on here. But then Darcy says like, oh, have you met my brother? He's my little brother. And then David comes in, and it turns out he is Darcy's little brother, which was a big moment. What'd you think of that, John?
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. Like I obviously we learned that there was probably a connection, but being the actual brother of this seemingly mob lady was very very interesting. And then like you said, I really like the subtle, like they're having this conversation and she's like, you don't want me to kill your friend, you want to walk out of here, like you need to tell me. And like the little subtle look over, that was very cool.
Yeah. So Darcy continues asking her, okay, so you and Emma took this money. Where was it? Where'd you put it? And Katchoo says, Katchoo insists, like, okay, Emma's dead, and I don't know where the money is. And then she says, well, who took the money? And Katchoo once again looks at Samantha, and Samantha's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But Darcy seems to believe what Katchoo was saying. And then it turns out she's like, hey, you know what? I've been checking up on you, Samantha. And there just happens to be a Swiss bank account with your name on it with $850,000 that was open like the month after. So, like the month after it was stolen. So, it seems like Samantha did do it. And then Samantha pulls a gun on David and says, I'll blow his head off. And turns out the cops are there, like, listening. I guess they had maybe a radio device inside. Maybe there's a mole or something that was working for them. So they had like a way to hear everything in this room. And so they rush in, and then they say everybody down, but Samantha starts firing at them. And then Tammy, or Bambi, one of the two, pulls out a gun and shoots Samantha in the head, killing her. And then, oh no, I'm sorry, I guess the police shoot her, but then Tammy or Bambi shoots Katchoo. They shoot her in the shoulder. So, immediately the officer gets her, brings her into his car, and they're heading to the hospital with Francine, and Francine's freaking out, of course. And it looks like, oh, maybe they're going to die or something, because Katchoo was like saying like, oh, Emma. And so it's like, oh my God, like is she seeing her like as she's dying or something? And then there's like a little dream sequence where that's kind of what it is, where she's talking to Emma, and Emma's like, don't, like you're not ready yet. You're not here yet. And this also might be something like, that actually happened in Hawaii, because there's like Emma picks up a rock and hands it to Katchoo in this dream, or this like fever dream that she has. And, but she actually has that rock in her house. But at this moment, it's not time for her to love, or to her to like, be with Emma in heaven or wherever this is. So, we wake up in the hospital with Katchoo, and Francine is there. And, yeah, I don't know. It seems like everything worked out. She's doing pretty good. And the detective comes in and says like, hey, hope you're doing well. You helped us with that case a bit. Like, she wasn't the mole or anything, but, I guess, some things got figured out, that he was on that case that never got solved, I guess, with Senator Chalmers. And then he says like, oh, you know how I said, like, I recognized you when I first met you? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, well, found out where that was from. And he shows her like some photos that they had of her in that file. And apparently, one of the people at this party where she was an escort had naked pictures of her. And I guess they got passed around the office. He's like, that was tacky. It wasn't a good thing to do, but it happens sometimes, and we apologize. Here's your pictures. And he basically says like, this file's closed now. So like, you can have them back, so no one else gets a hold of them. But yeah, and so pretty much everything's basically figured out. At this moment, it's like on pause. Darcy Parker got out of that. Did she get arrested, or did she get out?
She got it out because he said that she got it because she has lots of money. So it's not like they're going to be able to prove anything on her.
Yeah. And she's got like political ties and stuff too. So yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, she gets out. So it's not fully over. They leave that open-ended a bit, but one thing I liked was the cop says like, hey, like, this is all over, as of right now, you are clear and free to go, but like, try to stay on the good side of the law. Try to stay on this side of the fence, because I don't want to have to see you again under like, arresting circumstances. So, then we cut away from that, and we get some a moment where I thought this was like a funny way to kind of end this storyline, where we see Freddie talking to another ex of Francine, and they're like, I guess they're friends. And Freddie's like, I don't know what we both saw on her. Like, she wasn't that great. And like, this guy's like, no, man, she was like the hottest girl I've ever met. Like, And he talks about how like she wore this bikini and it was amazing and she was like so sexy, and Freddie's just getting more and more like, God damn it, like how come I never got to see her naked? And he's basically driving him crazy. And yeah, I thought this was like a funny scene because like his friend just tells him everything wild sexually that Francine did with him, and it's like driving Freddie up the wall. He's like, what? No way she did that. He's like, yeah, she totally did this and this and this. It was so hot when she did this. And Freddie's like, what the fuck? And and then the best thing was like, Freddie was like, well, why'd you break up with her? He's like, I didn't. She broke up with me to go out with you. And Freddie's like, fuck. And then yeah. So there's like this little moment where kind of Freddie realizes, I mean, it's weird because like we don't like Freddie, so we don't like him, and we're okay with him not being with Francine because we like her, but it seems like, you know, they're going to keep this storyline going where he is kind of obsessed with her, either thinking that like she's a prude or that he deserves her in some way. So he calls her to be like, hey, can we like meet up or something, like have a cup of coffee, you know, maybe we get back together, or just like, you know, like as friends or whatever. So, but Francine doesn't hear that because it's like a message on her machine. And then we see Francine going to the hospital and visiting Katchoo along with David. And David walks in and instantly gets the cold shoulder from both of them, as you would imagine, because he kind of was with them under false pretenses and they do not like the Parkers. So he actually leaves a present with her and says like, I'm sorry, but like I wasn't part of my sister's thing. I actually she asked me to like, you know, meet with you and keep an eye on you, but I didn't know why. So like I was just doing something for my older sister, and I wasn't a part of like any of the Parker girl stuff. So he tries to explain it, but obviously Katchoo's like, I don't give a fuck, get out of here. And so when she opens it, he says like, he leaves, and then she opens it, and it's a picture of a house in Hawaii, and he says basically, I bought this for you with the money that she gave me for staying with you all year or whatever, or all 3 months, and so he bought her that house that her and Emma had as like a sorry gift. So of course that was a nice gesture and whatnot, but they're still not on good terms with him. So they're in the hospital together, and then like Katchoo's like, Francine's like, well, where are we going to go? You know, should we go to Hawaii and like stay at this house, go on vacation and chill out for a bit? And Katchoo's like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Although we need to stop in Switzerland real quick because there's something I need to pick up. And then Francine's like, wait, Switzerland? Why would we need to go there? And then she realizes, oh shit, you framed Samantha? Like, wait, you stole the money for real and Samantha was just like your patsy? And basically that's what happened. Like when Katchoo stole the money, she just opened an account under Samantha's name and had like a special pin that she could only get to the money with. And it made it look bad for Samantha. So, but at the very end of it, as they're like, yeah, we're going to party and like have a good time in Hawaii with a bunch of money, we do see that as they drive away in the taxi cab, either Tammy or Bambi is watching them. So that is the end of it. It's kind of ominous, but it does leave it on a closure note. So, John, what did you think of it, and what would you give it overall?
I liked it a lot. I liked that it was kind of a, you know, she says that Samantha, even though she did pin it on Samantha by making that account, like Samantha basically gave herself up because I guess she was embezzling too. And so it was kind of like, it wasn't that money specifically, but, you know, she basically gave herself up because of how it went down, and it's fine for it's basically no one's ever going to come looking for it, supposedly, at least from the perspective of, you know, they're thinking that it was Samantha's and Samantha's dead. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I liked the you know, again, learning a little bit about how Katchoo has this like interesting dark past, and like there was a lot of crazy things going on, and you know there's people who are, you know, Miss Parker being the this kind of ringleader mob boss caricature. Like it had a lot of really lot of good notes, and obviously the art is wonderful, and very fun and surprising in a couple different places. So that was really cool. Overall, I really enjoyed it. And I definitely want to continue and read more. At least kind of dive more into Strangers in Paradise. We'll see if we need to read and connect all of the Terry Moore properties, but I definitely want to read more of Strangers in Paradise. So overall, this first arc here together, I would say was pretty darn good, really strong, really solid. I'd give it an 8.
Nice. An 8 is solid. So I'm happy you liked it. I've been wanting to read it for a while, and I'm glad we did. This for me, because I just know the whole series, I think this first arc or the first 2 volumes are really strong. With the whole, I like how it starts off with, it seems like it's just going to be about 2 women who, have a relationship, and one of them's gay and one of them's not, and they kind of have a back and forth where maybe the one is, and maybe, what's going on. And then when they, and it's that story's fine. It's a fun story. But then the second volume introduces David, it introduces Darcy and the Parker girls and all this stuff, all this political / mob intrigue stuff going on with the prostitution ring. So I don't know, that's what really kept me into the story. I think if it was just about relationship stuff, I probably wouldn't. I think it was fine, but I probably wouldn't love it as much as I do. But all the relationship stuff mixed with the mob prostitution ring, thriller stuff is what keeps me in it. So yeah, I love this first volume, and I mean, to me, I'm I don't know how anybody could read this and not be interested in it, but people are weird, I guess. So. But I'm going to give this one a 9. I think it's pretty solid. And like I said, I mean, all of volume 3 is, the rest of all of them is a solid story all the way through. And yeah, and as far as like I said, this was one of the first books I ever read that had a gay character in it, and I just loved it. And one of the things I was telling John before this started is you might read this and be oh, this feels a lot like some other things I've watched or read before. I feel a lot of Chasing Amy in this comic, which, I mean, Kevin Smith's a big comic guy. This book came out before Chasing Amy, so it's very possible he read it and got some inspiration for some of his lesbian characters and stuff. But also just the idea that there's a lesbian and there's a man who has a crush on her, and whatever happens between their relationship, is interesting. As far as is she actually only gay, or is she kind of bisexual or queer or whatever, or she, at least she just likes this one guy or something. So there's something interesting in that I think Kevin Smith explored in that movie. And then Terry Moore explores with this whole together thing, because he even introduced Francine liking David a bit. So there's a throuple mixed into that as well. So I don't know. This was one of those books that I totally did not think I was going to like, and I absolutely loved, and kind of changed the way I thought about reading comics and what comics could be. So I'm going to give it a 9 for that reason, this first volume. But all of the series overall, I will totally give a 10. I love it. So yeah. With that being said, we got Shark Week coming up next month, or Shark Month coming up next month. So next week we're going to be reading Cathargo, and which is a French shark book, a European shark book, I believe. And then we're going to have the poll for you guys to vote on. So once again, thank you guys. You're awesome. We love you, patrons. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And unless there's anything else, I think we'll see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.